Welcome to the Yale Centre for British Art online series, Artists in Conversation. I'm Rachel Stratton, Curatorial Postdoctoral Research Associate at the Yale Centre for British Art, and I am delighted today to welcome Raqib Shaw to the programme. Before we begin, I have a few housekeeping notes. Please note that this programme will be recorded and your camera and sound are muted, and they're going to remain so throughout the programme. We'll be using the Q&A feature located on your navigation bar to gather your questions for Raqib, and they'll be answered at the end of the program, but do feel free to just submit your questions at any time. If you would like closed captioning, a live transcript is available by clicking on the icon on your navigation bar. Born in Kolkata and raised mostly in Kashmir, Raqib Shaw is a London-based artist. He is renowned for his opulent jewel-like paintings and sculptures. Shaw's upbringing in a family of merchants surrounded by antiques, textiles, and jewels greatly influenced his distinctive visual language. His work draws on a vast range of influences, and we'll be discussing that, including Persian carpets, Renaissance art, Japanese lacquerware, and mythology from both Eastern and Western traditions. His highly detailed fantastical worlds often feature mythical creatures, warriors, and sensual scenes, blending beauty with violence and decadence. His meticulous technique, which recalls the ancient art of cloisonné, involves the use of vibrant enamels, rhinestones, and glitter to create surfaces that shimmer with intricate patterns and vivid colors. Shaw has participated in both solo and group exhibitions worldwide. His work is held in numerous public collections throughout the world, and he lives and works in London. And I'll also just mention that there is an exhibition of his work, Ballads of East and West, which is on view at the Huntington Library until Monday. So if you're in the LA area, do go and see it. Welcome, Raqib.
Thank you very much for having me here.
So let's dive in. Sorry, this can't change my screen now. Yes. So let's dive in because a lot of your work references your childhood upbringing in both Pakistan and India. So tell us a little bit more about your childhood and how this kind of shaped your art practice.
Well, of course, I grew up in Kashmir, and it was incredibly beautiful, as you can see, and it was a sort of a very a childhood laced with boredom, which I think is very, very important for creativity. But it was a beautiful place, and everything was well. And I was on my way to be a doctor because my mother wanted me to be a doctor. And then, I think in 1989, then the trouble started. And oh, by the way, now you're looking at these images. These are of course, that's the trouble started. Before that,
okay, I'll go back.
Yeah, those are the interiors of the various mosques in Kashmir. So there is really no imagery, and there is quite a lot of pattern, as is quite common with most places with Islamic origin. And so I didn't really see paintings when I was growing up in flesh, as to say. So that's why these are there. And then, of course, Kashmir being a thoroughly spiritual land, and there you see these incredible photos by Cartier-Bresson, I think, yes. And yeah, so it was rather idyllic in many ways. And then until 1989, 90, when the place really, I think, imploded in a way. And then, of course, I moved to New Delhi and decided to work for my maternal uncle in retail. And that's what I did for till I was 26, selling that kind of stuff.
And then, so in 1993, you moved to Britain, and you're still working.
Yes, they bought a house, and it was well, one of the good things was that I got to spend quite a lot of time in England, and I remember very clearly that the first thing that really struck me was the skies here, that they're constantly on the move, and the clouds. But anyway, so I did have time to myself, and then I would, and this was the first time that I decided to go to some proper museums, and I went to the National Gallery. And it's one of those periods in one's life when one thinks that, oh, what do I want to do? And do I want to be a merchant, or what do I want to do? And then I saw Holbein's Ambassadors at the National Gallery, which I think is one of the greatest paintings ever. And what struck me was, I mean, first I really could not make out what that baguette was, on the floor there, and because it's very, very strange. And then only, when you move towards a very sort of right-hand side, you see that it's an anamorphic skull. And I thought that was so clever, because when you look at the painting, you see that these people are so confident, and they're well traveled, they have all the things that one could want, so they're up there in the world, and yet Holbein had to have this incredible memento mori, or that everyone's going to die. So I thought, oh, that's clever. So instead of being a merchant, I would rather be the person who paints the merchants. So I went to St. Martin's. Of course, unfortunately that's not there anymore, and that was on Charing Cross Road. And yes, that was my first painting seminar, which was called From Shattered Pottery to Elephant Dung. Now, let's not forget, it was a time when the late 90s, when painting was considered dead, and painters were treated as dinosaurs. So, and especially in a place like St. Martin's, that was, mainly known for fashion, and then performance and installation. And I remember that the painters were huddled in a corner as these sort of baby dinosaurs, and no one would even talk to us.
I mean,
anyway.
yeah, I mean, I'm interested as well in, this is the period when the YBAs are
Oh,
huge.
absolutely. Yes,
Was
yes.
there pressure that you felt to kind of move in that direction?
Well, not only pressure. I think that painters were considered dim. I mean, I remember that we would have all these great conceptual fellow students, and one of them came up to me and said that, you look like an intelligent person. Why are you making such stupid things? I said, well, because I know that it's a journey and it'll go somewhere. But having said that, it was rather good, because I wanted to create my own language in painting. And I think that for that, I wanted to have my own materials. And of course, I didn't have the kind of money to buy oil paints. And also, I was not really interested in oil paints, because we have such an incredible history of oil paints. So I saw these Hammerite paints in Shaftesbury Avenue. There's this shop called Leyland SDM. And so those days, now there's a very funny story. So now, it's not really enamel, but it's really even more difficult to use than enamel. And if you look at enamel painting, you usually have large, flat areas. But well, I wanted to do something, and I really did not know what was going on. And those days, I used to have a little bar in my studio, because it wasn't like now. Those days, you could smoke, drink, and do whatever you wanted to do. And one day, I had I was playing around with these paints, and a couple of students, they got really drunk, because I had this bottle of Pisco, but it must have been like a few hundred years old. It had gone bad. And they got really drunk, and one of them fell on this table, and all the paints started flowing down the floor. And my studio was close to the dean's, and these are incredibly, incredibly smelly. So I was all over the place trying to mop them up as quickly as possible. And then I realized that certain paints, they reacted with each other in a very peculiar way. And it was almost like this chemical reaction going on, which I thought was very interesting. So that is one of the very, very early hideous paintings. And I have no idea what I was doing there. But as you can see, that there is this metallic kind of flat paint, but it's so volatile that I really can't do anything with it, because the moment I put it on the surface, it just goes everywhere. But then I found this acrylic liner, the one that they used to use in stained glass, repairing stained glass in churches. And so I realized that if I draw a line, and then I surround that line with the liner, it gives me a little dam, and I can pour the paints into that dam, and then they can start reacting, and I could hold that reaction there and use it to my advantage. And so that's how the process started. And then, of course, I used to use these little twigs and little sphincters of wood and whatnot. It was very, very clumsy, and needles. And then my dear, lovely friend, Mrs. Rhodes from Texas, and she went to Botswana, and she saw these there were two porcupines fighting outside her tent, and she sent me the porcupines in the post. And these were the finest gifts I've ever received in my whole life. And now the thing with the porcupine quill is that it gives you the sharpest tip. It's very, very light, and it gives you the maneuverability. So you can do whatever you want to do, and it stays sharp. It's amazing. Basically, it's modified hair. So it meant that I had my practice sorted. And this, of course, is my very, very first painting. And as you can see, these orchids, they're not particularly beautifully done, but there is, I mean, the process has not changed since. Oh, by the way, you might want to be interested in knowing that this painting has been painted on a door that I found in a skip, because I used to squat in Hackney Wick, and I saw this painting a few years ago, and there are a few nails sticking out. Yeah, but no one seems to mind, so it's fine.
Did you have to prime it in any way?
Of course, I primed it. It's gesso, but that's not going to keep the nails from sticking out, you know.
Yeah. So once you have your process kind of developed, one of the things that you're really known for is this reimagining of old master paintings, and that kind of begins at this point. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about why that appealed to you, what you were attempting to do with that.
Well, for the first, I would say more than a decade, what I wanted to do is so I had my paint. So if you really think about it, so I have my own vocabulary of materials, and now they need to develop. So I started off very much like the cave paintings of Lascaux, and then of course I have to go through my own development, through my own medieval art, and through my own Renaissance, and so pastiches were a way forward, because I could actually see how good I would be, and how, because the paintings need to develop. So there were merely little pegs on which I would hang challenges of painting. And again, it was lovely to go through that wonderful phase of the Hiroshige Hokusai, because these are prints, and they're surrounded with a line. And there were very, very good studies to achieve a certain kind of mastery over the medium. And it went on.
How did you go about choosing your source, the images from which you were inspired?
Oh, I never choose. I mean, they choose me. I never choose them. I mean, it just happens. You're really drawn to them. I never think about, oh, what am I going to paint, or what am I going to do, because that's not how it works. I just allow myself to be taken wherever they want me to go, and whatever these are, I have no idea. Oh, and look at this. Yes, God, how embarrassing. Anyway, yes.
And
I love these very early ones. They have a sort of a quality about them, but as you can see, there is, there is a certain amount of search and but getting there, but not really. Yeah.
And so this painting was kind of a milestone in your career. It was shown at MoMA. It was a big turning point for you. You were suddenly this huge artist that everybody wanted a piece of, and you had
terrible.
quite surprising reactions to that. So can you talk about how you responded?
It was very, very strange, because it's like I was 26 when I started my degree, and then I finished my degree. I had my first exhibition at Victoria Miro, and then after that I have another exhibition, and this is like following year after year. Then I have an exhibition at Deitch Projects, and then an exhibition at MoMA, and MoMA actually acquired this painting. So it was like, people have to wait for a very, very long time for this, and I really did not know what was going on. And then this painting was, it came up in auction, and it sold for a lot of money. And then suddenly, people started, they would recognize me as, oh, you're the person whose painting sold for so much and so much, and which was very, very disheartening, because that is not what I had, that's not what I had intended to do. And I thought that I had left the world of commerce and have this kind of romantic modernist life, that the whole day, I would live in a garret, and the whole day I would paint an apple, and in the evening it would be dinner. But then it turned out to be a totally different ball game. And So it was very, very depressing. It was very awful. And then I realized that I need to do something about it. So I decided to consciously make difficult paintings and violent paintings and paintings with, people always say that they can't have paintings with, kind of erotic nature because they have children. So I decided to put children in, I painted children in meat grinders, children hanging off hooks. I mean, I did everything that would sort of make them less desirable, but then, well, they did still sell, which is, I mean, it's like the most disturbing body of work, but never mind. And oh, this one is actually not a bad one. This is the blind butterfly catcher, and it was at the Met. Yeah, it was at the Met. It's a lovely painting. As you see, yeah, you can see these. That's a baby meat grinder, and yes, on hooks. Yeah, yeah. And that went on for a bit, so I think.
Did you get feedback from collectors and about this imagery that you were?
Well, quite a few of them were like, they were like, oh, these are very disturbing images, and he must be going through a hard time, which I was. I was really going through a very, very hard time because my whole life had sort of, just fallen apart because I didn't realize that there is this thing called, I was very naive. I didn't realize that there's this thing called the art market, and there are certain things that happen in the market. But anyway, I survived.
What was it about the market that really you found so distasteful?
Was that I understand commodification of painting, but the urge for artists to produce more and more and more, and it's like, it's quite a lot of pressure. Yeah. And that's, in a way, and it kills creativity. It's not what I think art is. It can't be that. Oh, and this, of course, is the fabulous sculpture. It's covered in sapphires, and it's, again, that's exactly how I felt. I felt that it was this gigantic, that I was being raped by the gigantic lobster, and that signified what they wanted me to be. And it was the art market wanted me to be a certain kind of a person, and I just wasn't that kind of a person at all.
And can you actually talk a little? I mean, people can see the medium and in the caption, but can you just talk us through the medium here, because it's really fascinating.
This is bronze. Oh, you should see that there's a life-size version of this as well. And so this is the maquette, and it is bronze. It's bronze, and it is the body cast is my own body cast, and it's a bird's head, which again is bronze. And then there are these tiny insects. It's a fairly wonderfully grotesque piece, that one, because I think you can see the beak. What's inside the beak? That's perhaps the next image. Yes, you see, yeah, there it is. But then again, the wonderful thing is that with all my works, it's trying to push the material to see what it can do, and what sort of language does it become? Where does it go through the process to become what it has to become?
And are these the paints that you're using? They're the same ones that you're using in painting?
Yes, yes, because they translated rather well. Yeah.
And then, so you, at some point, you buy a studio, and
well, I was told that I was a bit of a rolling stone, and that I need my own studio, and because I never thought that I really would be able to buy a studio, because that wasn't the kind of thing that I was thinking of. But then this was in 2010. Finally, I thought that, oh well, let's settle down. And I was looking for studios, and I saw this disused sausage factory in Peckham, which was an area known for its crime, and it reminded me of, the space reminded me of the Havelis of Rajasthan. So I decided to, it was the person who bought it went bankrupt, and it was being sold for absolutely next to nothing. So I was lucky enough to get it, and everyone thought I was crazy.
Why?
Well, because it was, and now it's quite gentrified, but it was a dangerous area, and it's a strange place. I mean, it's a huge factory, but there is a lot of space. And then, of course, as you can see, I decided to have my own, and I always wanted a bonsai collection. And then all these trees came to me, and they still are living here. It's good. Yeah.
Tell us about this machine
Oh,
and what
yes.
impact that had.
Now before this, now we are talking about 2011. Before 2011, the paints were limited because there was only the primary paints, and there was some the hammered shades, which were like copper and silver and bronze. And I saw this machine on eBay, and it's one of those disused Dulux machines. But and they don't make them anymore. And if this goes, I don't know what I'm going to do. But I was able to mix my own paints, so I could get any shade I wanted. And that was an incredible breakthrough, which now meant that I could, my dream of pushing my materials to actually be at par with oil paint, which I mean, it's kind of a thing that one has, there's this chip on the shoulder that, oh, it's enamel. So I wanted to, in a way, have this kind of this alchemy going on, that you actually, that what do you have to do to push a material for it to become beyond divine, that it becomes whatever it has to become, and perhaps even more seductive than oil paint, as oil paint used to be. So, of course, in such a scenario, what do? I go back to the National Gallery, and then I choose the paintings that are, technically monsters. So, of course, that's one of the great monsters, the Carlo Crivelli, and it's this incredible painting at the National Gallery, and you can see that it's, to do that, my version of that, it did work, I think. And in a way, what happens is that the rendering of the stone, the velvet, the metal, oil paint does become dull with time. Whereas these, they are, they still look wet. So it was quite amazing that all these years of working in the material, and singularly, and it was time for the material to become what it wanted to become. So that's what happened. So that was my very, very first painting with the mixing machine. And as you can see, you have these incredible shades of jade green and dark green. And this would not have been possible before.
Mm-hmm. And out of interest, as you say, they look kind of still wet.
Yeah.
How long do they take to dry, these works?
Oh, they're touch dry in about, I would say, less than a minute.
Oh, wow. So
So
actually much quicker than oil.
because this is direct metal, direct into rust metallic paint. So I mean, it's the crudest thing you can buy. You don't even need to sand the surface. You just pour this in, and that's another thing that fascinated me is that you take something that is basically very unglamorous. It doesn't really do anything. You paint these garage doors, or you paint railings, or you paint old structures with it, and suddenly to see this material in a gallery is in an art gallery or a museum, is quite amazing.
This is another example of a
Oh,
work.
that's another one. Of course, you can't get more holy grail than the holiest grail, like the Gossard. And now this painting, if you see it, this painting did give me enormous amounts of confidence, because if you see the way the cape is painted, the way that there's a crown at the bottom there, and so you see that there is the contrast between stone, different types of stone, and velvet, and gauze, and silk, and fur, and fruit, and softy mousy. So it's, all these things. That kind of gave me that assurance that, yes, now I can do whatever I want to do with this material, because it is finally not only mine, but it is up there with the likes of Crivelli and Gossard.
Mm. And I'm interested that, you started with the Ambassadors, with Holbein's Ambassadors, which is not a religious painting, but a lot of the works that you, reimagine are religious paintings. And does biblical subject matter chime with you particularly, and why?
Well, I think it chimes with all artists, all painters, because some of the greatest paintings are about religious scenarios, and also I think that they, like all the paintings, they become sets, like theater sets, where there are various emotions, various phases of life being enacted. For example, when I look at this painting, as when I look at any other painting, I know exactly what was going on at my life at that particular moment and what I was thinking. So these are very much pages of a diary. Oh yes, that's autumn. So of course, then after the old master's business, then now I was ready to do my own. So this is, for example, this is autumn from the Four Seasons series, and it's a rather lovely painting. I love this one, and it's again, you see this a person inside the tree, and there is the bubble of youth, and then there's the bubble of sort of childhood, and then youth, and there's the middle. So you can actually see the whole cycle of life, and how quickly we turn from children to adults, and from adults to, well, middle-aged people, and then before you know, we're gone.
And do you base, so this one, we saw the photos of, you know, similar scenes in Kashmir. Do you use photos?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I use photos, and I mean, well, this one does. This place does actually exist.
Yeah.
And so I do have quite a wealth of material that I use. Yeah. And I do my own photo shoots. And of course, this is, it's such a shame that I won't be able to go and see the David Friedrich show at the Met. I think that is such a shame. It's such a wonderful show. So yes, that's David Friedrich, my favorite. And so this was the inspiration for the winter painting, which I think is my favorite.
Sorry, I can't get back. There we go. Hang on. There we are. And talk to me about this painting and its interesting title.
Well, this painting is actually, it's based on a poem by the Kashmiri poet. Well, he was quite well known in America, but not so back then in Kashmir. And he, Aga Shahid Ali, and he wrote this. It's based on this poem about, called "Country Without a Post Office," where he writes about, well, in a nostalgic way, about the loss of in his mind, what Kashmir was, and it's about exile, and it's about you know, all those things that come with it. And actually, this painting is the only painting that I've ever painted for my own self, because I don't make paintings for my own self. And my little doggy looks absolutely brilliant. He is the star of because he was in his absolute prime. And it's a small painting, but it's suddenly at that particular moment in time, it really had everything in it. And also, it's a lot about hope. It's about this hole in the ground, and there are all these fireflies coming out. And then it also does converse not only with Eastern psychology and Eastern history. It does also, I think, talk a lot about Japanese aesthetics as well, to a certain extent. Have you seen The Grave of the Fireflies? Animation. Oh, you should watch it. You'll cry.
Yeah, okay, shall. But and this is one of the examples where you put yourself into the painting, and this was a practice that you began. When did that begin, and what?
Well, you know, I always used to paint metaphors of myself and metaphors of other people in my paintings. But then I thought to myself that, you know what, it's I was confident enough to not care how I was perceived, because I think that's such a wonderful thing that happens as one gets older. And one looks at one's earlier self, that diseased self. You know, when we're young, we think that the whole world is looking at us. And, you know, in reality, no one is looking at us. Everyone is looking at themselves. But anyway, so I do create these theaters, and then the paintings become informed. So there is definitely that performative aspect. Mm. Oh yes. Oh, this is yeah. This is the studio before the fire, because I had a fire. This was the salon room where we would have music, and then a tiny little hydrangea fell, and of course the whole thing turned into a ball of fire, and a wonderful painting came out of it, which again was in the Venice exhibition. And you know, people from LA tell me that this looked like LA, that fire one. So I don't know. Anyway, so yes, and this one is that's the Tempesta. Where did we go? Oh, we have come to the Tempesta. Yeah. Oh yes, this was for the Venice exhibition. It was I was supposed to have the exhibition in 2020, and then the pandemic happened. And by the way, this is based on, of course, it's Giorgione's Tempesta, which again Norman Rosenthal told me that if I would be able to have a conversation with Giorgione's Tempesta, which is, this kind of the holy grail of Venetian art, and it's very much there in the academia, and I thought that, well, let me have a go. So yes, I'm pleased with that painting.
And I just want to go back to this slide for a minute. So can you talk about how the process of your reimagining, because you actually staged these things?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. That's what I was talking about, the performative aspect. So this is, a kind of the very raw, and the drawings are made from the photographs, and then placed. I placed them right inside where the lady with the breasts is in Giorgione's version. And this is I think this painting also was my kind of suturing my relationship with the past, and perhaps saying, well, if possible, goodbye to it. But that never happens anyway. But yes, I was pleased with that painting. And of course, the lightning in that painting is painted rather beautifully. You can't really see it, but it's a good one.
And then COVID happens, lockdown happens, has a big
COVID happens, lockdown happens, and then it was, then my dog dies, and then I really don't know what to do with myself. So I decided to. There was a parking lot in the sausage factory. That there wasn't really a garden. There were just spots in a parking lot, and there was concrete about 9 feet deep, and I thought that the wonderful thing that I heard when I was really in the deepest depths of depression was when Judi Dench, she was on one of the internet things, and she said about sorrow, because she used to really love her husband, and when he died, she said that there were 2 things she could do. One was to go deeper into that bottomless pit of these are not the exact words. This is what I understood. The bottomless pit of destructive and humiliating self-pity, and the second is to use sorrow, because it generates so much energy, as fuel for creativity. And that's exactly what I did. It was the best advice ever. And also I realized that plants have the most incredible healing effect ever. And I realized also that the truest relationship that a human being can have is with nature. And it is the closest thing that we can ever come to the concept of perhaps God.
Mm-hmm. So can you tell us exactly what we're looking at in these pictures? This is your garden.
Oh yes, and each stone by stone, rock by rock, I placed it because there was no one else to help. Well, yes, I did have a lovely person to help me actually, but he came to us sort of the end. But yes, it is the transformation of the parking lot into an alpine vision. And then what was really lovely is that I decided to use these as sort of studies for the painting. And this is where, like this one, the Agony in the Garden in the Venice exhibition, it did come from. That is precisely what it was at the time of the lockdown. Because you see, the nursery stayed open here, because gardening is the official profession of the English population. And all the oldies, what would they do with the pensioners if they closed the garden centers? So they had to, and the garden centers were open through and through, and I had the most incredible time.
And do you find the experience of gardening and the experience of painting, are they equivalent? Is one you do for relaxation?
I think gardening is far more pleasurable than painting. Painting is it's a nervous thing, and you really don't. I mean, you never know if it's going to work or not. But gardening is very much like you're serving plants, and you see instant results, and I think people don't pay enough attention to, or perhaps have forgotten that plants do communicate, and I love my relationship with plants, and I wouldn't want to change for anything in the world, because they do understand us. They understand our feelings, and they're incredible.
A picture of you gardening.
Yes. Well, and that lovely little painting, that one at the bottom, if you go, yeah, that little painting over there, that's at the National Portrait Gallery, and that is when my dog died, and of course, and so I decided that everything that reminded me of the past, I just burnt everything. And this painting is that moment when we lose everyone and everything, and we are all alone in this world, and something really magical happens. We begin to see a lot more than what we would when the mind is full of noise, and the world becomes a much more incredible place. And I realized that what happened is it taught me compassion, because now when I see people, I think that if something like this has happened to them, they need my compassion. And if it hasn't, they need my love, because it's going to happen. And it's one of those incredible things that happens to all of us. But something amazing comes out of it, I think, and which is it burns all the rubbish of ego, ambition, and all those things that people run after. Anyway, that's a conversation for another day. Let's go. Oh yes, that's the Tintoretto one, which is again at the Scuola Grande. And yes, now since my dog died, I had painted him like a Zurbaran, of course, and as Christ, but then I thought that after he died, I wanted to paint him as something even greater. So I painted him as the young mother of Christ, and which again is in the church of Madonna dell'Orto in Venice, and this painting is there, and it's actually Tintoretto's buried there, and you see that he has left the studio on the on the left hand side. You can see the studio, and on his little legs, he's gone up, and you can see his the marks of his feet on the snow, and I think that's a rather lovely touch as far as this painting is concerned.
Mm. And so if we just go back to the Tintoretto version, and so what made you want to make this a snowy scene?
I think because snow is I mean, the scene is set in Kashmir, and it is the of my childhood, and I think it also is what snow represents very much. If you look at the winter painting, and again it does have that very close conversation with David Friedrich, and that concept of winter as this season of cold darkness, but yet there is a certain amount of illumination there, which I think is good.
And then finally, before we move to our Q&A, we're going to talk about this painting, the retrospective, which there are a few slides which will show the progress of it. But I'm interested to know why you decided at this moment in 2022 to make a retrospective of your work in a painting, and what drove you to present it in this particular way.
Well, the thing is that I thought to myself that no one's going to give me a show. So it's time for me to have a sort of a mid-career retrospective, and no one is really interested. So I'm going to give myself my own retrospective, and of course, because it's a painting. So what does one do? I went through all the venues that I could find, and then I found this wonderful one, the Panini one. And I thought that what, that is the place where I want to have my this mid-career retrospective, because it's that thing of we all take ourselves so seriously. And this painting is also a satire on what it is to be a so-called artist, and how so, for some very strange reason, artists are elevated, as if they're something special. I mean, I think artists are the most miserable of all people I know. And also the thing is that you have it was a very, very challenging painting, and of course it did push the practice to an incredible level, because all these paintings do exist that appear in this particular work, and it's also this painting is very much a conversation with a very, very dear friend, and people don't really they're not able to get it, because if you look at the painting, the protagonist is pointing towards something, and he's pointing towards an owl. Now, we don't have a close-up of the owl, but that owl is a person. So it's a private joke. Can you enlarge it? No, you can't.
I don't think I can,
No, you
unfortunately.
can't.
I think people can see my cursor encircling the owl. So
Yeah.
what's the significance of the owl?
Oh, well, it was my conversation, and I wanted to make a painting, and she was like, "Oh, I want to be in your painting." I said, "Oh, and it's a person that I adore deeply, and so it's our private little joke, which I think is quite hilarious. But apart from that, there is, of course, there is a bit of politics in the background. You see that there is kind of those that disturbance of Kashmir and blah blah blah, and then there is the sculptures. Yes, it's one of those paintings that was very very difficult to execute. It was very very difficult to compose. Everything about it was extremely difficult, and I think that it's one of those paintings that somehow everything just comes together, because you see, I really do believe that I don't really make these paintings. I'm just some sort of an instrument and have no idea, because I think that we live in a video game, and someone else is the author of this video game, and it's run by someone with the absolute sick sense of humor. Yeah.
Just before we move to the questions, I'd love to just hear a little bit more about about the process, because as you say, these works are all extant. This
Yeah.
is so how you mapped it out, to what extent you try to maintain the detail within each painting. Just
Rachel, what happens is that, of course, this one, because this particular painting has, it has a structure. It is in an interior that is a specific interior. Of course, those, so the skeleton is there. But most of the time, when I'm composing a painting, I just listen to where the painting wants to go, because it's that level of abandonment that one needs to be able to receive whatever it is. I really don't know where they come from, and I have no idea. Most of the time, I don't even feel like I'm the author, so I have no idea. I have no clue. But one thing I'm quite convinced, that these paintings they are meant for people of the future, or something of the sort, because they certainly, I mean, there's not, I mean, the greatest joy of spending sort of your life in front of this piece of wood. It's not really glamorous or fabulous or anything, but they are meant to go somewhere and do something, and they might have a role to play, and I do not know when and how, but I certainly won't be alive. So I do have that kind of detachment from them. So I don't really think that, oh, they're my paintings. No, I feel that, yes, I mean, because when I look at my life, each and every single event, the way it happened, it seems to have happened for the paintings to take place. In the true Proustian sense of the word, when Proust says that some people write a book about their lives, and then some people write a book, and the lives become a manual. The book becomes the manual for their lives. So it's something like that. It's a bit weird. It's a bit strange. So it's not like, oh, I wake up one day and say, oh, I'm going to make a painting, and this is my painting. Oh, no, it really doesn't work like that at all.
It's really, really interesting. I mean, one of the things that just really comes across in your practice is how much you do push not just the medium, not just the paints, but I mean, you set yourself tasks that seem almost impossible to achieve, and then you achieve them. So
I mean, how else do I justify my wretched existence? I mean, especially when you're not really interested in the fabulous things that happen in the world, and I wish I did enjoy, going to parties and blah, blah, blah. I did all that, and it was really boring. And I just I almost killed myself because I drank so much, because I couldn't endure it. But then as I get older, I feel that, I'm perfectly fine being who I am. And it's okay to be socially challenged. It's fine.
absolutely.
And I'm tired of it.
I'm going to stop sharing, and so that everyone can see you in, full screen, and we'll answer some questions, which there are a number of questions. So Rebecca Harding, can you speak about the tapestries that you created and that are currently on view at the Huntingdon, and what motivated you to begin working with textiles?
Oh, can you see the one here? Oh, well, I went to the Huntington, and then, of course, as you come down the landing on two sides, there are these the curved walls, and that have a lovely sort of this molding around them. And it was the most natural thing in the world to have a tapestry there, because I'm sure that in the past there might have been the intention of having a tapestry there, because all these old stately homes, they did have tapestries as you would go down the landing, and it seemed that it was a very good idea, and also Factum, who make the tapestries, and Adam Lowe is a wonderful, wonderful fellow artist, I call him, he really is. And I thought that these paintings, they do translate in a very, very, I mean, can you imagine, especially the ice one, it has kind of chiaroscuro. I've never seen that kind of shading in a tapestry before. So they do have something inside them that really do work. So let me see what happens. And also the fact that, I come from sort of a carpet merchant background, so it's really hilarious. I mean, can you imagine? They'd be so sad that my tapestries perhaps sell for more than their carpets that they are so proud of.
Did you have to get in a whole new slate of studio assistants to work on the tapestry?
No. These were they're made in Madrid in Factum.
Okay.
And so it's no, it's no. I'm not going to go there, yet, and then start producing children, and I put them on the loom. No.
Okay, Fatima Maleki. Dearest Raqib, what a pleasure to see you and listen to your wonderful stories as always. So she says, I saw your gorgeous portrait that you did of a beautiful lady friend. Is that the only one you did? Are you planning to do more?
Oh, it's so lovely to see my darling Fatty. I would love to do hers. I mean, it's so sad that what's happening in England, because we used to have such an incredible kind of society here, and we used to have the kind of art crowd, and since Fatih left, and I haven't even been to Mayfair. I don't even know what it looks like. So yes, we have our own challenges here, and it's becoming a sort of a slightly different place than it was before. But yes, some of the most incredible art parties and some of the most incredible food ever was in sort of Mrs. Maleki's house. I'll never forget it.
What an accolade. So Don Bogart, how many man hours are in the painting Ode to a Country Without a Post Office? How long did that take?
Oh, it's a small painting. Compared to the retrospective, or compared to, oh my God,
Why don't you talk a little bit about your Chicago piece?
Oh my God, it's let's not even go. The Paradise Lost is 100 feet and has been going on since the last 23 years, and it will never finish. It'll only finish upon my demise. So yes, you'll see it later, I think, in a few months' time. Yeah. So the Country Without a Post Office, hardly. Well, it was. It's not that bad at all, because it's just that big. It's not a big painting, a small one.
But how many? So for a mid-sized painting, how long would that kind of painting take?
A month, 2 months, 3 months, depends. Because I do work on a number of paintings at the same time, because otherwise one becomes it's not possible. So it really does depend. I mean, some paintings, but no, they never, none of them, because it's really like embroidery, and they don't happen quickly. That's why I can't make that many works as I would have wanted to, I guess, or to have that kind of a wow market, where these things churn out all the time, and there's so it's a very kind of a small thing.
Someone has asked about your gardening and the significance of your gardening as a creative outlet in its own right, and also, so what is the significance of the gardening in its own right as a creative outlet, but also how you see it in relationship to your painting?
Oh well, something incredible is happening to me. I did my garden, and then a lovely friend of mine, and she's I'm doing her garden. I'm sort of a part of the garden, a rock garden in the country for the last the last year. And it has been one of the most incredible experiences of my life, because it's it's something totally different happening there. It is, I know it's kind of a strange word to use, spiritual nowadays, but it really is beyond a spiritual experience, and it has healed my mind and my soul, and I feel it's as far as creativity is concerned, it is unbelievably creative. It is fabulous. It's far more rewarding than paintings are, because paintings are miserably slow, and they completely they slash you, they wound you with doubt, whereas gardening doesn't do that. It's a healing process, and it's something that really does take you to another level of consciousness, I think. And then human society sounds wrong, and the noise that people make sounds wrong. It feels like, I would rather be somewhere else. And I've been having the most amazing relationship with nature lately. Yeah.
But it's interesting. Sorry, I'm going to interject while there are a lot of questions, but the fact that you spoke about how your paintings have this purpose in the distant future that you don't yet know, and the gardening is perhaps more ephemeral, or at least it would require people beyond you to keep it up if it was to remain. So that's an interesting kind of dichotomy as well between the permanent thing and the ephemeral.
But I think that within that I think, I'll tell you something really hilarious that I did. So when I got the sausage factory, I decided that, and it had building permission for something like 42 two-bedroom flats, hideous. And I thought that, what do I do? So what I've done is I've planted a Californian redwood, a Sequoia dendron giganteum, and it's quite big at the moment. And in a few years' time, it'll be bigger. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to not English Heritage, the other one, National Trust, and they'll register it, and they'll never be able to build anything here. So gardening can have long-lasting effect, and it's a handsome tree. And I tell you that it's you won't believe that how big it is, and I would imagine that in about 10 years' time it'll reach a certain height, and then it won't be chopped off. So it will actually help to save the rest of the small garden things. So right in the middle of this incredibly neurotic Southeast London, you'll have this jewel of a place, I think.
Yeah, that's very interesting. This is also a question about kind of landscape, or landscapes and cityscapes, from Katie O'Hara from the AKG Art Museum. Landscapes and cityscapes have such a compelling presence in your work, and with your recent traveling exhibition, Ballads of East and West, moving across the United States from Nashville to Boston to Houston to Los Angeles, do you find that the American landscape is going to play a part in your work?
Oh, I love the American landscape, and I wish, well, I should come and see Katie a bit more, and maybe, she should take me to places that then leave me there, and I'll come back with the landscape paintings. I mean, America is absolutely beautiful, but I don't really plan anything. I just go wherever takes me. But it'd be amazing. I mean, can you imagine, the Yellowstone National Park? I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah. Wow, I'd love to see
that tradition
inspired by that.
of those great American. I mean, it's so beautiful, the landscape. It's unbelievable.
So there's a question here about your sense of the ornamental and luxury. There's a strong sense of the ornamental and luxury in your work. And how does this theatrical process manage to work so well in a contemporary time? Are there tensions while you paint between the old and the new, or is your vision so clear that when you paint, time or a sense of time is not a distraction?
Well, it really isn't a sense of distraction, and it really, because I think that also ornamentation. It depends on, there is ornamentation for the sake of ornament, but then there is that language of ornamentation, which points to a number of things. It points to politics. It points to let's say, race issues. You know what I mean? So it's a metaphor. Ornamentation becomes a metaphor in its own self, and it's I think it's that. I mean, I don't personally feel that paintings are. I mean, I don't know. This decorative is a strange word. It's a strange word. I think we need more time with this word. Yeah, because is decoration ever about decoration? Is decoration ever really happy? You know, it makes you wonder, has decoration ever been what we want it to be? Or is it a monster that we have released somehow? You know, decoration doesn't even fulfill its own self. There's kind of very human thing about it. Yeah, so it's, no, I just do what you know, I'm very fortunate to do what I feel like doing, and I really don't, I never really listen to anyone, you know. I mean, or what people feel or what people think. But it's amazing. I'm extremely honored that people, you know, engage with the work and they like the work. But if someone says that, oh, it's not my cup of tea, blah, it really it never did hurt me, because I think that, you know, it's not. I don't even know why I'm painting these pictures or what I'm doing here, or what the purpose of my life is. I'm just going with the flow and trying to do the best I can every single day without complaining, or perhaps looking at the bright side, you know. And counting one's blessings, of course, that's a good one. Be grateful. Don't complain.
So then there are just a couple of questions about your materials. Rosalind Farham says, thank you so much for sharing. I love your flamboyance and your sense of fun. My question is with the acrylic liner, does it ever stop you? So once you've put it down on the surface, from changing your mind or the painting's mind?
Oh, now that the thing is that once painting is composed in pencil, then it goes on. The pencil line is then the black felt tip goes on top, and once the plastic liner goes, there is nothing you can do. No. And then if the enamel goes and you mess up, oh no, forget it. And especially on works on paper. That's why works on paper are very, very difficult. I don't like works on paper. I mean, with the medium, because it's you sneeze and it just finishes. So it's yeah, you can't really go back.
Do you ever have to start again?
Well, in the beginning, yes, hundreds of times, yes. I remember that even sometimes, you know, the cat would go on the, you know, but no, it's I think with time, it's things have a way of you know, falling into place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then there's another question about your support. So do you paint on birch, like Renaissance?
Oh, now the thing is that all these paintings, most of these paintings are painted on a birch ply, but the tragedy with birch is that wood changes with you know, with the humidity, it changes with all these conditions. So aluminium is a very good thing to do. And it's light and it doesn't move all the time. So I'm going to try aluminium. I mean, I'm already trying aluminium, and I think it's a very, very stable, and it's a good surface. And it's light and it doesn't go crazy. Sometimes, you know, I remember some of my very early paintings, they're like Pringles, you know, it's like one corner is up, and it's natural for that to happen.
And another question has just come in. The liner, how is the liner attached to the surface?
The liner is water-based, and it glues onto gesso very, very well. But then also what happens is, when enamel is poured in, the enamel binds the liner and the gesso together, embalms it. You can rollerblade on them. Very, very strong surface.
So as one final question to kind of open it back up from the detail that we've gotten into, I mean, if there was, you've talked a bit about you know, wanting or believing that your paintings have this legacy in the future. If there was one thing that you wanted your paintings to do for the future, what would that be?
Oh, it will definitely be to inspire young minds and to really find the voice within yourself that you're supposed to find. And don't go, no cynicism, please. Don't negativity, misery, blah blah blah. No, these are things that these are like chariots in the air that can take you somewhere where you want to be, and you can waltz with the gods, and you know, and you don't need to worry about this kind of this pathetic domestic and utilitarian stuff that human beings usually do, and want this and want that and blah blah blah, you know, all that kind of thing. So these are things for true liberation of the spirit, I think.
Well,
And joy,
with that,
the joy that they bring.
I think that is an absolutely perfect place to end this conversation, which has been a real joy and a pleasure. Raqib, thank you so much for
Thank you,
talking
thank
with
you, thank
me.
you.
And thank you to everyone who gave questions. And please, anyone in the Los Angeles area, go and see Ballads of East and West before Monday. Thank you very much.
bye-bye, bye-bye.
Bye.